Happy Tuesday, everyone. I'm meteorologist Brittany Van Voorhees here with WCNC Charlotte, and welcome to Live Weather Impacts. As James reminded me last week, it is on this beautiful banner behind me, so I will hopefully remember the weather stream name. It was a fantastic day once again across the Charlotte area. I mean, truthfully, it's hard to find better weather, especially this time of year. Our normal lows and normal highs, essentially to make it easy, are with the fives, 65 and 85. But today was much different. In fact, the low temperature this morning was 54 in Charlotte. This actually overperformed based on what, now technically there were some models that actually were cooler than this. One of them was at 52, but overperformed based on the fact that we only got to 58 the morning before. So again, forecast wise, I'm almost shocked that we got to 54, but I'll take it. It felt beautiful out there. We had a few spots in the upper 40s. You can see Wadesboro 49, Lincolnton 49 as well, Morganton the same. And of course, 48 there in Salisbury. Boone, 37. The forecast was 38, so that was pretty good. But as we talked about yesterday, we had some communities in Ashwaubenon and Avery County. That's all patchy frost. A lot of pictures coming in this morning. I saw them a lot on X/Twitter, whichever you refer to them, social media as well. From Watauga County especially, with some frosty areas. Pretty much anytime you have light winds, clear skies, and temperatures at or below 36, you can get patchy frost, at least if there's enough moisture. And so that certainly happened out there this morning. Now, higher elevations, Grandfather Mountain, Beach, and Sugar likely got to lower 30. So there's a few spots that probably hit freezing, if not brief. This morning was the coldest we've had since May 24th, which was over 100 days ago. Now, if you're looking at that date and you're thinking, May 24th, are we normally that cool that late? The easy answer is no, but it was a chillier Memorial Day weekend again this year, which actually we had a few years ago as well. But a few years ago, it was a cold air damming setup. At least this year, it wasn't as much of a CAD event, but definitely we were cooler back in May. Now, temperatures today, mid to upper 70s for most of the Charlotte area. I know I normally don't show you a lot of these numbers and kind of data dump, but I wanted to show you the comparison. 54 and 76 compared to 65 and 85. So that departure from average for most of the country is about 8 to 10 degrees, so pretty substantial there. 8 in Charlotte officially at our airport sensor, and of course you can see 11 in Jefferson and 11 as well in Chester. Now the average high today is 85. It does switch over to 84 actually on September 10th, so tomorrow. So things of course will gradually slowly get cooler, but what I want you to keep in mind is that fall and spring are the two biggest temperature swing kind of days that we see, right? So with those temperature swing days, or temperature swing months that is, we'll see more substantial difference between the high temperature at the beginning and the high temperature at the end. So 84, the official high as of tomorrow. We very quickly drop to the upper 70s by the end of September, then the upper 60s by the end of October, and then by the time you're getting close to Thanksgiving, bada bing, bada boom, our average high is about 59, 58. So things are looking great outside. Unfortunately, it will not last forever. This afternoon was probably our last in the 70s for at least a few weeks, but we know at least we're on a trend downward overall in the grand sense of things. Lots of sunshine out there today, still with some clouds mixing in. I know we talked about this yesterday, but if you love sunrises and sunsets, get out and see the beautiful colors the next few days because, of course, we do have a lot of high clouds mixing in as well. Dew points will ebb and flow over the next few. I don't know why 50 right now is showing up as white, but just know that it's right on the edge there between very dry and comfortable. And while those ebbs and flows will happen, it overall feels great outside. By Thursday afternoon, we'll see a few more clouds creeping in. It's actually because of this low that's still churning off the coast. It moved through the area over the weekend. We know that. We saw a lot of storms, a lot of stormy action there because of it. However, this low will try to slowly creep back closer to the coast as we enter the second half of the work week, and so that will help bring in a few more clouds. It's one of the reasons why our humidity again will ebb and flow a little bit, but not expecting any kind of rain moving in. If you're trying to get out this evening, conditions are still very, very comfortable outside. 70s now, 60s later, again 50s overnight. Because of the close proximity of that low pressure system offshore and high pressure over the Carolinas right now, there is a bit of a breeze still outside. Just the close proximity of the two oftentimes will cause wind. Remember, wind is caused by a pressure gradient difference in our atmosphere, which means two highs close together, two lows, a high and a low, multiple cold fronts, things of that nature. Overnight temps, again, mid to upper 50s across most of the Charlotte area, 40s up in the mountains, high temperatures the next 7 days, pretty much at or below average the next 3, and then we slowly start to creep back up. If there was any day that had a small chance of getting to 90, it would be Monday. Again, conditions still relatively mild overall, but it is a trend we're certainly going to be watching. Friday and Saturday, we only got to 89, so that did underperform. So we'll see. 6 to 10 day outlook, we do see warmer temperatures compared to normal in the middle and end of September. But just remember, the average is 84. So anything above 84 is considered average. So just because you look at this map and you see orange, that doesn't necessarily mean, we're going to hit 90, 95. Remember, the average latest 90-degree day in Charlotte is September 12th, which is Friday. Not the latest ever, October 13th. But as we get closer to that number, of course, we're going to be fingers crossed, toes crossed as well, that we stay away from that. As we look ahead to the weekend, I'll show you this, of course, coming up in the 7-day forecast, but conditions still very, very nice. It will be warmer. So kickoff for Charlotte FC, which is back at home. Big match against Inter Miami on Saturday. 7:30 kickoff for that match. The sunset is at 7:32. So you might need the sunglasses, or you definitely need your sunglasses if you're going to be tailgating. But right around the start of that match, things will start to go down, of course, temperatures and the sun. Mostly clear, light winds, upper 70s, lower 80s. So again, if you're going to be tailgating out and about, it's going to be plenty warm. I know we'll talk a lot more about this as we get Tim on here in a few minutes, but we know we've been talking about it all week, all month it feels like. But tomorrow is September 10th, so the historic peak of hurricane season, which essentially just means we're at our midway point, but at least as of now, nothing to track in the tropics. We'd love to hear that. But we are going to be talking a lot more over the next few weeks, days, about why we still have to keep our guard up. Overall 7-day forecast, again, it looks great. I have run out of adjectives to talk about how nice the next few days will be. Again, we're warmer heading into the weekend, still with a lot of sunshine. And again, the air does remain very, very dry as well. We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back on with Chief Meteorologist Tim Buckley from WFMY. You're back with the one and the only Tim Buckley. How are you today?
Hello, I'm doing great. I'm loving everything to do with the fall weather. I had coffee on the deck this morning, perfectly comfortable. Producer James, even liked my coffee mug. It was a good start to the day. So, how are you doing in this fall weather?
Wait, I actually heard a conversation that happened on the phone when we called you earlier to have a little combo about the show. Something about needing a better coffee mug. I need the story behind this.
Well, my coffee mug had the subway tile icon for Yankee Stadium on it, which James loves the subway in New York, but he roots for the other baseball team. So he wants the number 7 train instead of the one that goes up to the Bronx.
It's true. I'm trying to pull up the tweet right now. Here it is. I was excited because I love when weather and trains come together, and here's Tim Buckley drinking his Yankee Stadium subway mug, but it is the wrong team.
I was about to say, I just was in New York a few weeks ago for a wedding, and the subway finally made sense at the end of the trip, but it happens. I'm an Atlanta Braves fan, so I can't get in on this conversation. But
I actually have a different bone to pick with you guys.
Oh.
If I can do that right now, before we get much further into the show, because
Pick away.
I was heartbroken because I thought we were friends, and the fact that you guys would not invite me to this, I don't understand. But you guys got together this morning and had pumpkin spice lattes without me, and I don't understand why.
You can totally tell that is AI generated.
What are you talking about? Of course it's not.
Because I look about 10 years older than I actually am. Tim, you look like a supermodel.
At least about 10 pounds younger. Yeah.
Yeah, you look like a supermodel.
I also think I have a suit on and a flannel sleeve only.
Oh, yeah, same. But I have a sweater. But at least we're matching.
Good stuff. That would be my first
resist.
pumpkin spice latte.
Yeah, also, I don't care for pumpkin. I also don't like hot beverages. But it's not about us.
Oh, you're an always iced person.
Yeah, it could be... we will have sleet and snow in Charlotte, and your girl's still drinking iced. I think that I would have to call my mom and ask her, and she doesn't really watch WCNC Plus because she's normally working out at 6:30. But I think I must have some trauma from a child. Like drinking a hot beverage and getting like my tongue burned or something like that because it's weird. I won't drink hot chocolate. I don't really like soup until it's very, very. I blow on it a lot. Chili is the same way.
Wow.
32 years old, and I
we
can't
won't
get
hold
over
it against
my fear
you.
of hot beverages.
I think we looked good hosting the Thanksgiving parade there, though. That's kind of what it looked like we were doing.
Oh, that would be great. We should call NBC and see if they want to, even though you work for a CBS station. But we just won't tell them.
No, we'll see if Macy's will have us. That'll be fine.
I'm sure they will. Oh,
I
gosh.
can't get over that sleeve.
Well,
Me either. Also, my crow's feet are insane. That's what I'm telling you. That AI really wanted to make me look older. All right. Well, I guess, Tim, should we talk about the forecast? I guess that's why we're here.
Sure. Cheers to the chilly weather. Yes.
This morning in Charlotte, we got to 54, which was our coolest since May 24th. And I did bring this up when we were talking earlier, but May 24th, it seems like kind of late to get that number. But if people remember, we were pretty cool Memorial Day weekend. How are you guys? I know Boone got to the upper 30s, but you guys, of course, aren't as cold as them.
Yeah, and I think Boone, I think they've set a record low 2 days in a row up there, I believe. So they were at 37, of course. In our area, mostly, if you're in the cities, we're mostly in the low 50s to mid 50s range for most people. But it's noteworthy, our record low for today's date's 47, so we were at 51. That's pretty close. Our 40s, though, in the northern tier counties. So either way, this is the coolest weather that we've had, too. Since about that time frame on June 1st, I guess we were about 50. So either way, it's been more than 3 months since you felt something like this when you stepped outside, and it didn't warm up right away either. So definitely a really cool start to the morning, Brittany.
Yeah, and I think it goes to show, too, about how where you are is everything, means everything when it comes to even just records, because you prompted me to look up our record, and it's 46, which is set back in 1998, which is lower than yours, even though we're closer to the city center. But I will remind people, of course, that the urban heat island effect has gotten more it's always been present, but it's gotten even, worse is dramatic, but it's gotten worse, in the sense of just, more notable over the past really 5 to 10 years too, just with all the construction and all the peeps moving to Charlotte. So of course can't leave without at least mentioning that. More people, more industrial buildings, more concrete, more urban heat island, even when it's the low temperature you're talking about.
Yeah, it's harder to cool off, being somebody that does the late news every single night. I'm always kind of interested personally of what's the temperature at 11 o'clock. And a lot of times on those really cool nights like we had last night, you'll see the rural areas being 5, sometimes 10 degrees cooler than the cities on those really cool nights. It just happens more quickly sometimes. Something I was interested in too, and I only looked this up for Greensboro. I'm sure it's pretty similar for Charlotte, just maybe add a week or 5 days or something to these values. But for our area, the first time that we usually hit around 60 degrees for a low tends to be in late August. And for the 50-degree number, which we almost got to today, that tends to be kind of in the second half of September. So we're a little early for that, about 10 days or so early on that regard. And then if you want to get down to 40, that tends to be in the middle of October. And for our area, the first frost tends to be somewhere around Halloween. So those are kind of the usuals, the normals. It's never an absolute. There's always earlies and lates, but this year so far, performing a little early.
Yeah, ours is about the same, especially for the average first frost. Normally, if you're in the northern part of our Piedmont, so pretty much northern Mecklenburg County into Catawba, it's about the 21st through the 31st of October, so of course right around Halloween. And if you're in the city and south, it's about November 1st to the 10th, and that's pretty much all the way down toward the Sandhills. So it is very interesting to think that also those dates don't feel that far away. October 1st to the 10th for the mountains, they did see some frost this morning, so of course, I guess they already broke that one. But still, it's September 9th. We're only about a month and a half away from hopefully a very comfortable, chilly Halloween.
Yeah, if you love this time of year, as I do, if you blink, you can miss it. So just make sure you're taking advantage of it. Be enjoying it because it doesn't last forever. If you like that sweet spot in between the heat and the cold, if you don't enjoy it while it lasts, it can be colder than you'd like pretty soon.
It's true. And of course, a lot of the last few summers, we've seen summer temps kind of creep so much later past their peak. But this year, it was different because August started off cool and wet and then ended cool. So as long as we don't see another big spike in temperatures, we're getting a nice little treat this year in 2025. Speaking of a treat in 2025, Tim, we know that the Atlantic hurricane season, we've talked about this a lot, is less active right now. We are going to talk a little bit about what that means in comparison to 2024, but I did get the opportunity to speak with the National Hurricane Center a little bit about this year, what is new operational-wise. Just a little side note before we go to the story, operational is something that's new that has been implemented this year. Oftentimes they do experimental things that are behind the scenes, but once it's operational, that essentially means it's full force and operational and being used. So we'll do that story and then we'll be right back to kind of dissect it. Robbie Berg is the warning coordination meteorologist for the National Hurricane Center. He reminds all of us that the season comes in waves and lulls.
That you need to be on guard for what potential impacts might be coming down the road. And that requires almost doing a daily update of what's happening in the tropics and looking at your weather forecast.
Even though the season hasn't been very active, with Erin causing the most severe impacts across the country, the NHC has been able to use new operational tools such as their Rip Current Viewer.
The local weather service offices have always put out rip current surf zone forecasts, but a lot of those visualizations have been very localized. We've never had one place for people to go to see what's the overall risk for a storm, even if it stays offshore.
Many media outlets use this product to better communicate impacts along the coast, even though Erin was hundreds of miles away. Berg also said the team at the NHC has been using AI to help forecast storms. And although it did fairly well with Erin, it's still just a tool in a much larger toolbox.
There are other aspects of the forecast, like Genesis forecasting. Is a storm going to form? I think it's a little bit rougher around the edges. We're still evaluating how accurate or helpful that's going to be.
And so, of course, that aired on TV. because I did do an interview with the National Hurricane Center last week about a few different topics. But I know, Tim, we want to remind people that you can always get a deeper dive here on Live Weather Impacts, because there's only so much we can show on TV. But this is a more, I guess, in-depth explanation that Robbie gives on the Rip Current viewer, which is one of their new operational tools this year.
The Rip Current viewer that's on our website now, this is the first year we're offering that. The local weather service offices have always put out Rip Current surf zone forecasts, but a lot of those visualizations have been very localized. We've never had one place for people to go to see what's the overall risk for a storm, even if it stays offshore. What's the risk of rip currents along the coast? And so this is the first year that Hurricane Center has been able to provide that visual so that it makes it more apparent when there is a risk. And I think we saw that bear out in Erin. It was exceptionally successful. I actually saw that being used across other media platforms, which was gratifying to see. So I think it was an exceptionally good improvement, and we just happened to have a good storm to test it out in this year.
And I know that we've talked about rip currents a lot. We did the Weather IQ a few weeks ago on rip currents as well. It is the #1 weather-related killer for the coastal Carolinas. And when I interviewed the National Weather Service to do the story that we did, they talked a lot, Tim, about how about 20% of those deaths are actual people who live in the Carolinas, whether that's inland or near the coast. And about 80% of that is people who live nowhere near, or I guess at least not in the Carolinas. So I thought that was interesting, because now with the Rip Current viewer, that means more people, in Kansas, Oregon, whatever, who are coming to the Carolinas, they can see that, which they might not have had access to before because their local Mets are probably not talking about rip currents.
Yeah, and I think it's a really appropriate thing to give emphasis to. When it comes to hurricanes, a lot of times the rip current it's such an afterthought, or like we're going to have rip currents too, as we always do. It really should be a point of emphasis, particularly for the storms that do not hit when they're just distant, like Erin was. I'm actually pretty proud of how the Carolinas handled Erin when it comes to the rip currents, Brittany, because I think what we saw is we, as the weather community, really were sounding the alarm days in advance that, hey, this thing's not going to hit with rain and wind, but the rip currents are going to be awful. We saw 1 or 2 days where there were a ton of rescues. I don't recall any fatalities. I might be wrong on that at North Carolina beaches anyway, but I don't recall any. And then they really shut most of them down. And so the awareness was really ratcheted up. And I think that, in years past, maybe it might not have been such a point of emphasis, but it's a big deal in the Carolinas. It kills a lot of folks needlessly. It's really something that we've got to raise awareness of. And the Hurricane Center putting out that big map for most of the coastline, to me, that's very helpful, because we used to have to kind of poke around to each weather service office, and they kind of all keep it in a different spot. It's very helpful to see it plainly explained, and it's good for the users too, to just see where the rip currents are going to be bad.
Sorry, I turned my mic off so I could look up something without interrupting you on accident.
No
but
worries.
yes, so you are correct. I just looked up the rip current fatalities for 2025, and there have been a few, but it looks like the last one that was in South Carolina, at least, was back on August 6th, which was or about a week or so before Erin. There are a few that I guess could have been associated with Erin because they happened along coastal New York and New Jersey, but the way that they do fatalities is they don't specifically get related to one storm, but there's 1 or 2 that are around that same time frame. And obviously you never want anybody to die from a rip current, but I hope that at least for the North and South Carolina beaches, that this continuous, emphasis on communication, as you mentioned, will hopefully help now and of course in the future. And social media and internet can be terrible for a lot of reasons, but it's a really easy way for people to communicate stuff to each other. So if your best friend's going to Myrtle Beach or something and there's a high rip current risk because you saw it on Facebook, make sure you tell them. Or on TikTok, I guess, for the kids.
Yeah, everything's on TikTok now. Hey, so you talked to the Hurricane Center, very recently about all this stuff. I know we were touching on it's being really quiet right now with a big lull in activity. This is interesting, Brittany, that, this year, similar to last year, kind of having a lull, in a similar time frame. So I guess last year it was a little bit earlier. Most of the month of August didn't have much activity going on. But we all know what happened after that. Of course, last year we had Hurricane Helene, which happened later on. So this is nice. The break is nice, but it doesn't necessarily say anything about what could happen several weeks down the road from right now. So this is a really cool graphic here where we're looking at this season and what has been going on. We don't know what the rest of the year will look like, but looking at last year, we're actually still, pretty much ahead of that pace that last year set.
Yeah, because Gordon was on September 11th, which would be Thursday. We know nothing's going to happen within the next week. And I know we'll talk more about this likely right here on live weather impact tomorrow. But there are some long-range suggestions that would tell us that things will get more active to the end of September. I don't want to go too much in the weeds because I know we wanted to talk about this tomorrow. But at least models long-range hinting at less wind shear. We know less wind shear means storms are less likely to be ripped apart. Right now there's a tut, which we won't get, again, too much into this, but it's essentially a trough that can oftentimes rip storms apart or prevent them from developing because of said wind shear and dry air. That looks to be weakening. High pressure, suppressing storm activity just off the coast of Africa looks to be lowering. So again, that's based on long-range models and what typically happens in late September and early October, because we also will see more instability normally late September and early October. And even though we had Aaron, our overall sea surface temperatures are the 6th warmest since 1979. So again, looking at these trends,